Don't even get me started. Good evening and welcome to our perfectly normal and not at all technical glitchy episode of Momentous Live. What episode? Number 103, if you can believe it. Oh, I know. It's because it's lucky 103, 1 and 3. It's take out the 0 and it's 13. I don't know.
Yes, sure.
Decaphobia.
Exactly. All right. So I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm Will Silver.
And I'm Gray Williams. And this is episode 103.
Whoop, whoop.
Amazing.
We did it. If you want to find out more about
background.
us at Momentous, you can visit us at momentus.tv/links. And for those of you watching, if you're wondering why I'm looking off to the side, that's part of our technical glitches this evening. So yeah, good times. Momentus.tv/links. You can also go to momentus.tv/podcast to find the first 17 episodes of Momentous Live. Well, minus the first couple, yeah. Because the first couple
we were at
weren't
3
salvageable
last week.
Yeah, well, you know, someone's been burning a lot of midnight oil. So yeah, we're getting there slowly but surely. And once the backlog is done, then we'll finally submit to the various places and we'll be in all the places, and then you can subscribe. You don't have to look at our beautiful faces. You can just listen to our beautiful voices in your ears. So more to come on that front. So momentus.tv/links for all our socials. And actually, if you go to momentus.tv/team, you can see our updated team page, which has links to all of our personal social media profiles as well. So I should have done a graphic for that, but I did not. Anyhow, there we go. I'll just take that.
I think we can forgive a couple of technical difficulties. There's been like some major progress.
So we're getting there slowly but surely. All right, so let's start ourselves with a little bit of follow-up. I'm going to be leaning hard on the boys this evening. And also Tasia Custodi, our missing fourth member, couldn't join us tonight. For some reason, a hockey game took precedence. She and her husband are at a Phoenix Coyotes games. Sorry, not Phoenix anymore. Arizona Coyotes. Thanks, government subsidies. So hope Asia and Greta are enjoying the hockey game. So first,
shots fired. Shots fired.
Hashtag priorities. Okay, so a little bit of follow-up. Starlink's global roaming promises worldwide access for $200 a month. So last year we talked about Starlink, which is from SpaceX, good old Elon's, one of his companies, and the step change that presented in terms of satellite internet access, like almost like true broadband satellite internet access, way faster, way less latency than previous satellite internet offerings. And we saw, I can't remember what the initial prices were exactly, but then they came out with an RV version, which you could take with you and not use while the RV is operating, but say if you're at a campsite or whatever and absolutely need your internet access, and you could set it up and do your digital nomad lifestyle. So the difference here with the global roaming is that Starlink will now give you access for the $200 US a month to take your Starlink with you around the world to wherever Starlink actually has access. So that's a fun thing. Gray, as someone who likes to go camping once in a while and has considered Starlink for such purposes, what's your take on this? Is this useful for people that maybe for whom maybe the RV plan wasn't quite enough? What do you think?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, looking at this, if you have a static emplacement and you don't need the RV device, I've seen folks, basically lugging the regular Starlink around, and then they go through it's almost like a reboot process, which you're not supposed to do, but apparently works. This seems like it's cutting a whole lot of sort of red tape and challenges for people. So looking at it, chances are, if $200 a month is in the price range for you for internet, which I mean, I'm paying $140 right now for Shaw, and it won't go anywhere with me. Like sometimes not even on the balcony. So
just need a really long cable.
It's fine.
Yeah, I think with the RV plan's about $135 US a month. I can't remember what the plain vanilla is, but it's nice to see that they are gradually adding more, specialty options. Let's put it that way for those who are Apple.
One thing to note, the
Mhm.
RV one does work while the RV is in operation if you're in traffic.
There you go. Bumper to bumper. Nice and slow. Oh, were you making a joke? No.
No, it actually does.
Okay.
So I
I thought there was
up.
some like network traffic thing there. You know, that's what happens when I have my head at this angle. All right. Moving on from our, oh, you know what? The stupid thing is, here I am pretending or like acting as if I actually have the thing on screen, and no one got to enjoy the graphic. Hey, folks, look,
Oh.
see, there's a picture of the Starlink,
Oh.
rectangular, I guess, quasi disc. Okay, so we're done with that. Let's move on to our.
It looks like a Noma. It looks like a Noma garden light.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A very fancy
Just
Noma
much
garden light.
bigger. Now, going from Starlink to PhoneLink, this is a fun little story from last week that it actually was quite relevant because I had a friend. I'm not sure if she ended up with an Android phone, if it was a personal choice or if it was a work phone or what. And so she was not able to. Oh no, it wasn't not an Android phone. She still has an iPhone. She was off of her Mac and onto a Windows PC. And again, I'm not sure if that was a personal decision or if it's a work PC. But said friend was asking me, "Oh, is there some way for me to do iMessage on my Windows PC?" And there are a few pretty esoteric methods to do so with third-party options, and some are kind of hacky, some are more straightforward. But it's not generally for the tech novice or faint of heart there. But luckily, to sweep in and address this issue, for those not sure exactly what we're talking about here, when you're in you're knee deep in the Apple ecosystem, one of the great things is that you can actually access Messages app or the iMessage platform from not only your iPhone or your iPad or your Apple Watch for that matter, but also from your Mac. So if you're working away and you want to respond to messages, for a lot of us, it's much quicker to type using all the fingers on our hands rather than thumbing away on one of our mobile devices. So that's been it's a great feature to have. But if you're for some reason using a Windows PC due to preference or due to work obligations, what have you, that's one convenience that you don't have. So now Microsoft has something called PhoneLink, which is an app that lets you use iMessage from your PC. Now it's somewhat limited. It doesn't let you access the full back catalog, so to speak, or archive of your past messages. But for your real-time messaging with your friends, as long as your phone is on and nearby, it takes a little bit of setup, and that's good to go. So, Will, as someone who has gone back and forth from the Windows world to the Mac world, and so far, what's your take on this? What sort of things have you missed when you've had to go PC, and that you've enjoyed coming back to the Mac?
Yeah, no, it's funny. I was just dealing with this today. I mean, I do like the messages. Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one because I like to get the messages while I'm working. I work on a PC most of the time right now. I have worked on Macs in the past. That was sort of more of a luxury than a norm, I think, in most environments. And yeah, so it would be nice to get the messages. Be nice to be able to share things a little bit easier. To have drop some, like I often drop things in various shared folders and they just kind of appear. But because I tend to separate church and state, because I don't want my personal life to tiptoe into my work life. And one of the reasons for that is that if I'm going to be doing stuff on personal devices, then I want work to be paying for my personal devices. So that's just a rule I have. I know that other people feel differently about that, and that's fine. We're all allowed our own opinions. I just feel like I've often had people sort of said, like, hey, if you want to use your own device, that would be okay. No. If I'm doing work on something, either you're buying it or you're helping me purchase my system.
Totally.
Plan.
Now, do you think it would be helpful for you, or something you would consider doing, is installing this Microsoft PhoneLink on your Windows PC at work to make it a little easier for you to do
tempting, but
messages?
I'm scared that it's a slippery slope. Like I've been read the Riot Act about like not, for example, not using free trials with my own ID, just saying like, hey, if you want a piece of software, request it and we'll buy it for you. don't set up a free trial under your name. So I've been read the riot act about that. I didn't ask why. This was particularly pointed out to me. It's like those signs
We
on
know your
like
type.
glass shelves that say "Do not lean on the shelf." It's like, oh, someone leaned on that shelf.
Yeah. Sainsbury's nuts. Caution, may contain nuts.
Yeah.
Same kind of warning. Gotcha there. Well, so speaking of slippery, I guess going from one type of phone issue to another, it must have been it's a slow Apple news week, and despite rumors of potential new iMacs or Power Macs or other things that have been like YouTubers have been talking about, we got a new iPhone 14 and it's yellow.
It's like
that's
sunshine
about it.
in your hand.
What's that, Gray?
It's like sunshine in your hand.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So this is a bit of an Apple tradition the last few years. We had, let's see, we had a purple. Oh no, that was added permanently in the fall. A couple of years ago, we had like a fancy special edition purple. Not SE per se, but I don't know if it was the 12 or what have you. With the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro, we got green. This time around, it's not the Pro; it's just the iPhone 14, and it's it's a yellow. And they've also got a bright yellow case that's even brighter than the yellow of the phone itself. I mean, that's basically all there is to it. No price change, nothing like that. Gray, any comment?
Bananaphone. That's what I got.
Bananaphone. That's about it.
Congratulations on expanding the color spectrum, Apple.
Exactly.
Well,
and this is yellow. Like, it's kind of like their mid-cycle, very minimal refresh for those who are. It's kind of like when they do the mid-cycle OS refresh with adding the new emoji. It's like get a little bit of press coverage and get maybe some people interested and this coincides with a lot of discounting from carriers as well. So. Yeah, really not much of a story, but it's any excuse for us to get some Raffi references in there with the Bananaphone.
For sure,
we're here for it. Speaking
Canadian
of
content,
exactly. Speaking of exciting bright yellow handheld devices, Playdate, which someone here owns a Playdate. They have a new store that launched today. Actually, it's the 7th of March. The catalog makes it easier to find games for the little yellow handheld. And The Verge has a great article which curates some of their favorites, including Tapeworm Disco Puzzle, Carve Jr., Grand Tour Legends, Island, that's EYE, Word Trip. And it's amazing with some of the imagery here, that what they're able to do with this monochrome screen. It's not a grayscale screen, it's a monochrome screen. So it's like 1 bit. And the action is intriguing. Now, Gray, you've had your Playdate for the better part of a year now. What does this the opening of this store mean to you? Have you had a chance to check it out yet? And what are you excited about?
Yeah, I have. I was actually working on a couple of like just sort of basic games for the Playdate, and this has kind of got me thinking about getting back to them.
It's actually nice developing?
Basically, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, they've got a browser-based tool that you can use, and they're also using, I think it's Lua as a programming language. But yeah, it's a great little system. It's fun. The audience for it seems to really love it, and it's an interesting take on a gaming system. The crank, I think, is kind of a cool mechanic, and so I had a few ideas of things that I could do with it, and so I was just sort of doing some proof of concept stuff. So yeah, I like it.
All right. Will, now that the platform seems to be opening up a bit, and so in addition to the subscription games, I believe you get a year of like 1 game per month. Is that how it works, Gray? When you get the Playdate?
Yes.
And so now they've opened it up
weeks.
Oh wow! So they've opened it up with additional a la carte games. Will, what's going to take you to get into one of these Banana Boys?
Well, I think. Part of my problem, I've said this before, is I have too much stuff. It's cool. It looks cool. I already have something like 50 games on my wish list on Steam. So, it's going to take a little bit, I think.
Speaking of Steam, the Steam Deck, again, that's been out around a year now, and that's
Yeah.
people are saying it's starting to really hit its stride. The handheld PC gaming device that from Valve, those who who host the Steam store, and all the things that you want to be able to play on a PC, you can now play in this handheld form. But they worked out a lot of the initial kinks. It's a bit of a beast, but it's nice to see some like diversity in the mobile gaming space. We're really spoiled nowadays with these devices. The Nintendo Switch that we were talking about recently, and even things that we've talked about in the past, like the Analog Pocket for emulating or actually using FPGAs to play some older vintage games as well. So we are truly in the best of times for handheld gaming, because we're not even talking about all the stuff that you can do on your smartphone or tablet nowadays. All right. In other gaming news, see, you may have noticed a trend here, fellows. We're getting some of this gaming stuff taken care of while Tasia's not here, so she doesn't get too bored.
She loves games, though.
All right. This is one we were hanging on to for a little bit because Gray wasn't able to join us last week. Some Destiny 2 news. Gray, now you had hyped us on this a few weeks ago, and that is the latest chapter in Destiny 2. So why don't you give us a little update on what's happening with Destiny 2 Lightfall?
Yeah, so this is the 8th year of the game, and we're going into Lightfall. We've got 4 seasons. We've got season of the Defiant right now, which is going to be on for the next 80 some odd days. The campaign missions themselves basically take us to a brand new planet, Neptune, to a city that's been hidden in the clouds there, Neomuna, and the story is actually getting a lot of flack from a lot of gamers and a lot of game critics. We have a character in Osiris who is typically like a bold, brash character played by Oded Fehr from The Mummy and Star Trek Discovery. And he seems a little whiny and a little impatient. At the beginning of the
sounds like certain gamers when they don't get their patches or their new chapters.
There are these 2 new characters, the Cloud Striders, that protect Neomuna, and there's kind of like the Sith. There can only ever be 2. There's Rohan, who's the older one, and there is Nimbus, who's the younger one. Nimbus is a gender neutral character, non-binary character. The thing about Cloud Striders is they're 10 feet tall, cybernetically augmented, and they die after 10 years because I guess the nanites and things, they don't treat them well. People don't. They're not really. There's no challenges with Nimbus's gender identity. They just find the character to be a bit like too California Surfer and a little too blasé about the end of the world. Here's the interesting thing, though. There is this MacGuffin, the veil that we're supposed to be going and protecting because the bad guy, the Witness, wants to get it or wants to destroy it. We're not really sure. And the confusion about this in the story, like, what is the veil? Why does the Witness want it? Why are we protecting it? What's going on? People are using it as a critique of the story. And the thing that I found here, and if you take a look at the reviews in the link that I put in there, the audience ratings 2.5 out of 5. This is gamers being gamers, for one. But I think folks aren't necessarily understanding some things. We're hearing this is not the time to set up questions. We're in the last 2 years of Destiny, so we should be getting answers. And it's like, actually, no, this is the beginning of the end. This is where we start asking the questions that we've alluded to over the course of the last 7 or 8 years. Osiris, minor spoiler, was right. We were moving too slowly. And things happened because of that. Justified. And looking at this whole thing with the veil, no one explains it to us because real life doesn't have expository characters. And they don't know what it is either. They just know that it powers their city, and they have like a VR thing inside it they can hide inside, but they don't know what it is. So who is going to explain it to us? And these reviews are coming out on an 8-mission campaign set that's kind of setting up the rest of the year, 2 days after the game came out. It's a live service, which means in the time that we in the week that's passed, a number of these questions have all been answered. So it's like you all got ahead of yourselves. You're 2-3 days in, and you were saying the story's terrible, and the narrative team should be fired, and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, folks, the game has another almost 700 days ahead. Maybe chill out. Go shoot some aliens. The story is going to be told. Y'all need to chill.
So do you think this is like the rating that we're seeing here of 2.5 out of, and that's out of 5? Yeah. So yes. I mean, if you look at Metacritic at 70%, GameSpot 7 out of 10. So, you know, a little bit more generous than the player reviews. Now, do you think this is organic, or do you think this is a result of review bombing?
It's review bombing. There, for whatever reason, I don't know. The children just seem very upset when they want to be upset. The actual gameplay of Lightfall is phenomenal. They've added a whole new class called Strand, which is basically the invisible fibers that we sort of weave the universe together. It's basically Bionic Commando. I can go grapple hook off anything out there, like grapple hook out of midair. It's fantastic. And honestly, it was supposed to come out with the Witch Queen. You can tell because the Witch Queen's color scheme was green. The logo for Strand is on some of the armor. It got delayed. But in the year delay, they perfected it, and it is amazing. So looking at this right now, you know, folks really got ahead of themselves. The main lore guy for Destiny, the main lore YouTuber, a guy named My Name is Bife, put out a video where he like slammed the narrative team. And I think a day later, like walked most of it back, like, no, my points stand, but I was too rude. He wasn't right. This story is being told, and live games tell stories in a different way. And I think gamers, for being on the cutting edge of so many things, just don't understand that narratives have to change based on the medium that tells them. And I'm a little disappointed in a lot of people today. End of story.
So how many hours do you figure you've clocked into Nightfall so far?
Into Lightfall?
Sorry.
Yeah, all of them.
All the hours.
Yeah.
Right, you slamming the Monster Energy drinks. Oh no, they have Coca-Cola with coffee now available in Canada.
Yeah.
You know what it is? I can't actually tell because I will leave the game running and go and do live stuff and then come back. And if I'm ever having trouble with something in the game, I will literally just I'll go do the dishes, do the laundry. But yes, it's been all the time this past week, with some notable exceptions for like some personal care.
So what if you leave the game running? What happens to your character? Is it vulnerable? Do you have to hide out somewhere, or do you go can you go invisible? Well, like what's the mechanic there?
So there's a couple of things. If I was to, you know, stay in like a strike, I would eventually get booted back to orbit for inactivity. If I'm in a game world, same sort of thing. If you're actually out there in the game world, though, you will get killed by things. Now, here's the thing: you're an undead space zombie. Undead zombie seems to be redundant, but you're brought back to life by the little ghost thing. It's usually over there, but it's now in the main room. And so that's the kind of whole thing. We're paracausal heroes. You know, we die, we come back, we die, come back. A lot of Guardians just jump off the side of the tower for fun. And there's a little sign that says it'll flick up to like 1 day without an accident when you beam in, and then as soon as somebody jumps off, it'll flick down to 0 again. You can go to the tower, you can go hang out in your ship in orbit. But yeah, eventually it'll kick you back into the login screen because they need the space on the server, but you can just kind of chill out.
All right.
So there's some folks out there who will find spots where you won't aggro any of the enemies, something like at the top of a flagpole, at the top of a building, or something like Batman, but let's start.
So Destiny 2 Lightfall was one of the key things that Sony announced a couple of weeks ago at their State of Play event in February. But there was more than just that. There were a number of other games, including Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. Capcom reveals 3 new Street Fighter 6 characters. Baldur's Gate 3 is coming at the end of August. There's a Resident Evil 4 trailer, which, let's see what it says. Oh, it confirms the return of Mercenaries mode. Bungie, so the Destiny 2 Lightfall that we discussed. 5 games coming to PS VR 2. Their new headset, which is getting pretty decent reviews, despite the fact that it is wired. And then the developers of Tetris have a new project called Humanity, which looks wild. It looks like a new version of Lemmings in a sense. And there is an extra tier. Chia is launching an extra tier with PlayStation Plus. I guess that's a game developer. Goodbye Volcano Goodbye Volcano High coming to PS5 and PS4. Naruto X Boruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Connections, new trailer for that. So that's a game coming later this year. And Digital Extreme and Airship Syndicate's Wayfinder. So that's a whole lot of games that I have not any experience with. But Will, you may have had some experience with some of them. Which of these announcements from the PlayStation event has piqued your interest a little?
Well, I mean, a lot of these are minor updates, or we knew a little bit about them, or they're new trailers. I mean, I think the ones that I'm probably most familiar with is the new Street Fighter. So, I mean, new characters are always cool, but this is definitely drip, drip, drip kind of announcement. We already knew there was a game coming. We already knew a lot of the characters. So, nothing truly revolutionary. And some of them are just variations on characters that have already been announced. The other one that's interesting to me is the Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. This has been delayed for a while. I believe it's been announced for a long time. Rocksteady is a fairly reliable, good studio. This is very much built off the engine and past things that have been done with Arkham Asylum and the various Arkham games, I guess is how you would term it. The only thing to me that's maybe, it's one of these things where it's like, wow, did they develop this when they thought that the last Suicide Squad was going to be a big hit, and it wasn't nearly as big a hit as people thought it was going to be, but they already have the game 3/4 of the way through development, so they're just going to go ahead with it anyways. I mean, it's cool by me. I'd love to see Captain Boomerang and King Shark and a different version of King Shark, which is a smart King Shark. They did a dumb King Shark in the movie, and Captain Boomerang was not involved. I won't say what happened, but he was not involved in most of the movie. So it's cool to see two characters that we didn't see very much in the movie in this game, or at least versions of these characters that we didn't see much in the movie. So I always like that. I'm a Suicide Squad fan. I read it since the 90s, so I very much like the idea of it. So yeah, this looks very interesting to me. I like the Arkham games. They got great mechanics. These look like really interesting characters. They've expanded on some of their abilities in these trailers. So it'd be cool to see all these things when they're released.
Nice. Gray, anything to add? Nope. I played Destiny 2. Straight up. I wish I had a better answer.
No worries. Well, maybe you can have a better answer for this. Something that I've been hearing a lot about lately, and I don't know if it's big with the kids or what. It's a little something called Marvel Snap. Now, Gray, I know you've got experience with tabletop games and card games and the like. Can you explain to me what Marvel Snap is and what's the fascination? Is it a digital game, or is it a real world game? I thought there was cards involved. What's the deal?
Who is this, me or Graham?
I was asking Gray, but if Will, you want to, you can always punt it if you want. Gray.
I thought this was Will. Yeah, please. It's not Destiny. I don't play
it. So I have downloaded this, and now I get emails like 5 times a day, or pop-up messages 5 times a day that I try to turn off like whack-a-mole. So essentially, it's like a deck builder game. It's a card builder game, and you can get different cards. You can get variations of cards.
So virtual cards. So this is all digital
cards.
Okay.
Virtual, all digital.
Okay.
And this is very popular. Like, there's all sorts of card collectors games, and a lot of them are made by very reputable brands like Topps and Upper Deck. And brands, if you're a sports card collector, you'll have heard of these brands. And they have made Marvel cards back in the day. And I was addicted to the physical cards back in the 90s, like, I don't know, 89 to 93 or 94 or something like that. They were making some very, very good cards back then. And a lot of people who were comic book fans remember getting addicted to them. I got very, very addicted to them. And so, I like the idea of this. the reality of it is I don't like playing with my cards. Like I don't like deck builder games for the most part. And that's just a personal preference. I have a friend who actually is involved in some of these physical Marvel card games, and he goes to tournaments in the States and stuff like that with his son, and they actively play, and they're quite good at it, and they've collected quite the formidable deck. I actually play something called Hero Clicks with him once in a while. Usually, actually, we'll do it on Zoom. And he actually just lent me a bunch of his seconds. So I just play with his Hero Clips and we play online, and it's fun. So I get it. But for me, I'm much more of a turn-based kind of guy. I'm much more of I like little miniature things. I like things that look like the thing. Some of the cards can be quite goofy or quite wonky, and that's kind of the fun of it, especially stuff like Pokemon, like having all sorts of variations and stuff. So it's really just what you're into. It's not my thing. So I continue to play Marvel Strike Force, which is now 5 years old. I've been playing it for 5 years, and I'm a big fan of that game, and I continue to play it. So I tried Marvel Snap. I try a lot of these games when they come out. There was a DC turn-based game that I also played briefly, and a Star Wars one. And really, Strike Force is the one that's been the crack cocaine for me, and I'm not off it after 5 years. So Snap was not good enough to break the siren song of Marvel Strike Force. So enjoy Snap. It's not for me.
Only up to 2.5 grams, though.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for the primer on Marvel Snap, because like I said, I'd been seeing it all over the place, and it seems like an opportunity for them to reintroduce physical cards there, because things what's old is new again, but the whole digital side of things just further cements in my mind that that even though the specific form may take a while to gel, that some people don't understand how NFTs could possibly be a thing, because people will get excited about virtual goods. So whether they're paying with real money or crazy crypto money or what have you, whether it's blockchain based or not. Yeah.
People are into this, and people are into Marvel Strike Force as well. I often get surveys, and it's well known. You guys have probably heard the term whale, that there's whales out there that spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on these things. And this is honestly, in Marvel Strike Force, this isn't even Snap. I don't know how much Snap costs, but Marvel Strike Force, when the new character comes out, you can buy that character basically for $180.
Yikes.
No, I
pass.
I'm just gonna, every day I'm grinding, bro. I'm just gonna grind it out.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of things that look like other things, as you mentioned a moment ago, we have Lego returning to the Lord of the Rings with a $500 Rivendell set. So you can pay $180 for your virtual character there, you mentioned, Will, or $500 for something tangible, and you can return to Rivendell. Now, I think each of us have a little bit of Lego in our lives. I have to confess, I haven't really bought any modern Lego per se. Either of you at all tempted by something like this? I'm not sure how deep into the Lord of the Rings universe either of you are.
Well,
it's not Destiny. Okay.
Yeah. We have Lego.
It's not that I'm bored of the things, but I'm not going to put together a 6,000 piece Lego set. I live in Vancouver. Where am I going to put this?
Where would you put it?
The Whispering Wood? Come on.
I'm going to say two things. First of all, we do have Lego, but I'm not into Lord of the Rings. Number two, the thing, now that you're talking about, Graham brings up Space Wasters, the thing that I've been watching is the unboxing of the 1/6 version of Ecto 1 and the unboxing of the 1/6 version of the DeLorean. For Adam Savage did this on his channel, Tested, and they are massive. And I was watching this, and Nate was like, "You can never buy those. You can never buy them. They're like 3 feet long or something. It's ridiculous. There's just unless you live in a mansion, there's just not space for those things. I would love to have a 1/6 DeLorean. Like, just look at the box. Like, I think he jokes about how he could lie in that box and go in that box. So, I mean, these are massive things. Like,
And
where
it's
would
all,
you
I
put
mean,
that?
this is too easy. It's not, it's pre-built. These aren't even Lego. So, I mean, sure, anyone can buy a thing, but with, at least with Lego, you have the satisfaction of putting together however many
I know, but
thousands of pieces.
I'm talking about the space.
That one does have that one does have an unlicensed nuclear accelerator in it. So
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's worth it. Are people going to harvest those and sell them on the aftermarket?
next generation catalytic converter.
Yeah.
Well, meant to go with your Mr. Fusion. All right, so I guess that's a pass from both of you on the $500 Lord of the Rings Lego set. Now that we've established that, let's get into, from the department of things that nobody asked for, new Lord of the Rings movies set to go at Warner Brothers. Apparently, Peter Jackson has been consulted, but I know filmmakers have been attached to the project, and it's unclear exactly what's happening here. But Gray, do we need more Lord of the Rings movies? We had 3, and we had extended editions of the 3, and then we had 3 movies made out of the shortest book, The Hobbit. Then we had an Amazon series that got decidedly mixed reviews. What is Warner Brothers thinking here? Are they trying to strike while the iron's hot, at least while it's in the zeitgeist? And help me understand.
Mean, it feels like this story is cyclic, almost like a ring cycle.
Wah, wah.
Thank you very much.
Why
don't you do the Silmarillion?
Need him? Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it's like reading some of the bad parts of the Bible, but the Silmarillion would be really fun. I mean, he wrote that on a lot of cocaine, so I can only think that there's got to be gold in there. I never could finish it. I got really, really bored of the things. So, yeah, I didn't watch the Amazon series. I did watch the extended editions on DVD, but not on Blu-ray. I don't know that I've got a whole lot more space. Like I've read the books and I've read the books and I've read the books, and you see these amazing performances and the wonderful things that they did with the sets. And I don't have another 16 hours of my life for this. If it's great, maybe, but I think maybe Warner is, they kind of like they ran out of Batman to hire, so let's go back to Lord of the Rings.
It's, I think it's one of those things where it's easy for us to go, oh, what's the point? They just did this. Return of the King came out literally 20 years ago. Like, what is time? So, a lot of times, movies do get remade for various, new generations. It's like, and now, yeah.
Can I get a little woke on you for just a second?
Sure.
We've got authors like Ursula K. Le Guin,
mm-hmm.
right? Authors out there that are not Tolkien, not old white dudes. We've made movies of his stuff. Let's go explore some other authors.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see the Wizard of Earthsea trilogy, or the Earthsea trilogy done. Speaking of Le Guin, that was one of my favorite series of books growing up. So yeah, I'm all for it. I think, didn't they try doing, wasn't there like a made for TV series at some point a long time ago, maybe when it was harder to do? That's the thing, is like, if anyone's seen the original Fantastic Four, the Roger Corman one that was done basically to retain copyright, there is a lot of bad versions of popular stories that sometimes the technology wasn't there, the effects weren't there, the writing wasn't there. It was before, what's the peak TV or the modern age of movies now. And maybe there's another one that my wife Stephanie was mentioning a few days ago. We've never seen anything of the Piers Anthony books, a popular fantasy writer from the 80s. And there's lots of stuff to mine there as well, in addition to some of the writers that you mentioned there, Grace. So yeah, it's like Hollywood is so conservative in like the fiscal sense, and that's why we see so many stories being done with the known IP that's proven itself. They take, X-Men wasn't proven at the time, aside from the fact there was either the comics and whatnot. So, but then they decided to do lots of X-Men. Same with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with the Avengers and all the characters therein. Of course, Star Wars. And it's tough, like even now with The Last of Us, which I think we're all enjoying, it's, that's based on a video game. So it's just so much when you're investing hundreds of millions of dollars to produce movies. Like, I totally get going with a sure bet, because sometimes they try things and they don't pan out, and that's it's easy to spend other people's money so on taking risks. So I just hope that they can that a little adventurousness keeps introducing itself once in a while in there, because and with going with books, at least there's some built-in base. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, that's what happened with comic books, right? Like, to your point, like, comic books were not a guaranteed property. They had a lot of problems with comic books. I wonder if they're testing the waters a little bit with video games now, especially with things like Last of Us and Mario. And
I can't wait for the Mario cinematic universe. Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, one of the things,
there's a Destiny series coming.
A Destiny series. There was a Halo that they did a few years ago. One of the things that I think for many years was, and the Halo was, but they had 2 kicks of the can at Hitman and didn't work. They had what was that other one?
The Elephant,
there's another one I'm thinking of. Max Payne didn't work out. And
then all the films about Uwe Boll.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But the other one that was very famous, and I don't think was Uwe Boll, although correct me, was Final Fantasy, which was the one that was like the uncanny valley. It was the
uncanniest of valleys.
The uncanniest of valleys. And people were like, this is just so weird. Like, people couldn't watch it. So
I didn't know that you could make Steve Buscemi look more weird, but they did.
It is possible.
Hello, fellow kids. All right. So speaking of making safe-ish bets on existing IP, there's a teaser from Apple TV Plus for something called Silo. Yet another post-apocalyptic drama, in case we haven't had enough of those. But for those who may not have seen the details, Silo is based on a series of books. The first one was called Wool. And my wife Stephanie has read those books and really enjoyed them. So she's actually pretty interested in this, and looks promising from the initial look at it here. We've got some recognizable cast in there, including I think it looks like Common and what's the name of the actress who was in Parks and Rec? They just showed her a moment ago, of course. So anyway, some pace. So that's the thing with any new movie or TV series. It's nice to have a little bit of star power in there. To get people in. You've got the case where the existing IP with Wool, hopefully they did a good enough job of some people understand what it's based on. And I think they've renamed it Silo because it's basically about a giant silo, so it's a little bit more on the nose, where if they called it Wool, maybe they thought it was going to be the sequel to Lamb or something. Either of you guys familiar with the Wool series of books?
Nope.
No? Either of you intrigued by this teaser from Apple TV Plus?
I am. I do want to say, though, I think we need to find a different way to categorize these types of shows, though, because right now what's happening in my head is everything that's not like this is now being filed as pre-apocalyptic drama.
Oh, boy. So like any just like regular like rom-com, pre-apocalyptic rom-com.
Yep. 10 Things I Hate About You, pre-apocalyptic rom-com.
Well, speaking of Apple TV Plus, the season 3 of Ted Lasso is coming soon. That's coming.
Pre-apocalyptic comedy.
Yeah. March 15th. Will, I'll let you take the lead on this. How excited are you for season 3 of Ted Lasso?
I'm a big fan. I'm very excited about this. This is also, for me, this is the quintessential, and people who watch it will agree, the little engine that could. I was sort of always in because it was about football and it was a comedy and I was always going to watch it. I was just surprised that other people liked it because I didn't think people liked the footballs. So for me, it's very heartwarming that other people have embraced it and love it. And you see believe signs. I was looking at lamps the other day, and there was a believe lamp. So I love that this has become a thing that people have embraced, and it's won Emmys and all sorts of great things. So I'm really looking forward to season 3, and I just hope people enjoy it.
Well, it came out early pandemic, I believe, in 2020, and it was exactly what a lot of us needed at the time. Gray, have you dipped your waters in dipped your toe into the Ted Lasso feel good waters, the pre-apocalyptic feel good waters?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think a lot of folks were actually saying to me that I reminded them of Ted Lasso in season 1.
Aw.
And I was like, oh, that's really nice. And then I kind of got to season 2 and I've been having some mental health struggles. And I'm like, oh, there it is. Right there. Okay. All right. So I'm interested to see where this goes so I can know what to do with my life next.
Exactly. Perfect. We can take our life advice from Apple TV Plus, pre-apocalyptic dramedies.
It's either Ted Lasso or Servant, and I'm sticking with Ted.
I, for one, associate most with Coach Beard for some reason. At least half of the year.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's your Patronus.
All right. Let's get into our picks, our momentous picks. Will, you got something a little different for us this week. What is it? What are we tasting of the transformation here? What is going on?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I had one of these as another one of my picks. I like the crazy Cokes. I like the crazy Diet Cokes, Coke Zeros, as Tristan, as you know. These are not going to get a ton of love, but I love that they're trying stuff. And so that they've done some flavors that are a little esoteric. So there was one called Dream. There was another one called Starlight. And this one is called Transformation. Ooh. It sort of smells like burnt caramel. It's one of the strongest smelling of all of them. You can't help but smell it as you put your nose into the glass. But it tastes fairly normal. Like, besides the smell, it doesn't to me taste that offensive. I think, again, we taste a lot with our nose, our snifters. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of overwhelming at first, but you get used to it pretty quick. What I like to think about these is that they're conversation starters, right? So I think, have a drink, give one to a friend, see what you guys think about it. If you hate it, never buy one again. So
just don't get the six pack. Yeah.
Just don't get the six pack. So, I mean, it's a conversation starter. Yeah, have fun with friends. It's like $4 worth of entertainment that you could spend half an hour talking about it, and you'll have a drink at the end of it. So I recommend it, even if you don't like it. But I actually didn't mind it. So I don't mind any of them. So I haven't hated any of them. So
I found this particular one had a bit of a floral taste to it, which I quite liked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have yet to try this one myself. So, but Will's description has me a little concerned. It sounds like someone left the Coke on the stove a little too long. We got burnt caramel on the aroma, but not so much the taste. So, I too will try it. Gray, you had a little Coca-Cola care package in a couple of months ago. Were there any highlights from there that stood out for you?
The orange vanilla was actually quite nice. It was like a creamsicle Coke.
Right?
Insane. And I would, really big fan.
So they get spoiled in the US, obviously larger market, and then what tends to work there, they bring up here. For example, the new generation of Coca-Cola coffee combos. We first saw about
Cherry Coke Zero.
Yeah. And like we first saw Coca-Cola Black, which was like Coke Zero and coffee flavor in the mid to late 2000s as well, the aughts there. And I guess it didn't really go places. I find the newer versions with the actual sugar or high fructose corn syrup tend to work a little better for the coffee Coke combos. But the orange vanilla, that was only in the States, and it doesn't even appear to be there anymore. So maybe it wasn't as successful, which is a shame, because the vanilla is great, the cherry's great, the cherry vanilla is great. The orange vanilla is very good, but they come and go. It's like the McRib. It's the McRib of Coke products.
They do still have the orange though, and they have the vanilla. So I wonder, could you just take them and put them together?
We could
do that with the cherry and the vanilla.
We could brew our own. It's a pre-apocalyptic treat.
Yes.
All right. So your pick of the week, Gray. This is something that I've been enjoying as well. Why don't you tell us about Star Trek Picard Season 3, the redemption?
Yeah, they have done so much with this season so far, and like letting the actors act. There were moments in the first 2 episodes where literally nothing was said between Picard and Riker, and things happen, and you can see the entire conversation that's happening between the two of them. This moment here, where here and the previous episode in episode 2, where Picard acknowledges something about this Jack Crusher character that is communicated across the bridge between these two. No words. And it's just like, and you're like,
so good.
You're right there for the whole conversation. You know exactly what's being said. And they have the same moment here where there's just this back and forth where he is devastated, disappointed, shocked, horrified, angry. And she is indignant and protective. And it's just like, God damn. Gates McFadden has been owed this since the mid-90s. And this was her moment. This is her moment. And I am so thrilled to see her, if you'll pardon the pun, crushing it.
I see what you did there. I agree. It started off strong. Now I'm always a little concerned because both season 1 and season 2 of Picard, I felt started off strong, and then as the seasons wore on, maybe they didn't fulfill the promise necessarily of the first couple episodes of each. Now with this third and final season of Star Trek Picard, they seem to be leaning into, I don't know if it's nostalgia exactly, but bringing back a lot of the other favorite characters from the Next Generation TV series and series of films as well. And we won't spoil here, aside from what we've seen with Beverly. But what is your take on what we will see in the rest of this season? And given that they've got to wrap up not only the season, but the entire series, are you cautiously optimistic? Are you like all in, or are you nervous?
I am all in.
Right.
I'm all in. So, in Star Trek Generations, we learned that Picard's brother and his nephew had been killed in a fire at their vineyard. And so for Picard season 1 and 2 to take place at the vineyard, this place where Picard line was ending. And we find out something that refutes that fact. We're dealing with things like the death of Thad Riker that we learned about in the first season, Will Riker and Deanna Troy's son. And how they're treating grief, how they're treating, fatherhood, parenthood. And so these are themes that have been woven through Star Trek: The Next Generation for 25 years. And it's absolutely it's incredibly exciting to see, knowing from the trailer, we've got some very interesting characters that I never thought there's one in particular that I never thought we would see again. And it's like, how the hell do you factor into this? And, seeing him come back, it was either this or a reboot of The Nanny, and I'm glad it's this. So yeah, super stoked. Yeah, they've got 7 more episodes, right? And so far, Vadic. And can I tell you one thing that kind of sucks a little bit for me? I'm watching episode 3. I've got the subtitles on. On Vadic's ship, they named the species that's piloting it with her. And I don't want to spoil it, but it's this is obviously now drawing us into Deep Space Nine, and it was just like,
yes.
When I saw it, as soon as I saw it, I'd been a suspicion in my mind. I'm like, I think this is, and I saw it, I'm like, damn it, I hate being right on this stuff. So
this huge Deep Space Nine tie-ins coming into play now, and it's cool. To be honest, I was never a huge Deep Space Nine fan, just given the time of my life and access to the cable TV and all that kind of thing. And there was Voyager going concurrently for a few seasons, and it was like there was a bit of Star Trek burnout happened for me. So I actually would like to go back and revisit some of that, some of the shows from that series. Oh, that era.
It is the best. It is the best episodic Star Trek because Brendan Braga and the guy who did Battlestar, Ron Moore.
Yes, Ron. Yes.
Yeah, they were responsible for basically faking out the studio with these mini arcs because they didn't want any sort of continuity. And if you take a look at it, well before Battlestar did it, they were dabbling in this continuity and building this beautiful story. Other than Ella Moraine, which is probably one of the worst episodes of television ever. It's not, but we had a hard time. But the 7 seasons of Deep Space Nine are some of the best Trek. In the Pale Moonlight is probably one of the finest episodes of Star Trek ever made. And it's great. And it got overlooked because it was, the big brother, Next Gen, was there and then off to the movies. And then the little sister, Voyager, was newer and fancier and sexier. And meanwhile, we've got this political drama on a space station it's dirty and breaking down. And Avery Brooks is just the best, angriest captain ever.
And he really came into his own. Was it season 2 or 3 when he shaved his head, and which was his natural look as a private person? And I've read interviews with him where he said, he felt a lot more comfortable in the role when after they had a season or two under the belt there.
He's obviously like a huge fan of jazz, and it's like they let him play in season 3, and from then on out, it's just that man is a towering force of a commanding officer. And if I had one wish for this season,
don't even say it. Don't even say it.
Yeah, I dare not hope. I dare not hope. It won't. It would never happen. But God, it'd be amazing.
Anything's possible. Will, have you had a chance to check out Picard season 3 yet?
No, I haven't.
Do it.
But no, as you know, I'm a huge fan of Star Trek and the original Trek and Next Generation, DS9 and Voyager, and I have to agree. There's some episodes of DS9 that I think are some of the best ever. The one that Graham mentions is a favorite. I can't remember the episode title, but the one with the assassin who's shooting through walls is a favorite one of mine, with a transporter gun. So there's a lot of great episodes in there. Most of season 1 and season 2 is pretty forgettable in DS9. But the whole last season is basically building towards something. And when I watched Avatar, the Last Airbender, not the Blue Dances with Wolves version, but the pseudo-ancient Asia version that was done by Nickelodeon about 15 years ago or 20 years ago. I was like, wow, this is like the last season of DS9. Like, we're all building towards this one thing, and we all know that this thing is going to happen, and how is this going to happen? And sometimes you think the ending, or probably what's going to happen, but it's the journey that's interesting. And there's episodes like the one Graham mentions and the one I mentioned, which I think is like last season or second to last season or something like that. Yeah. But it's again, it's just a fun way to see how things go through. So I'm looking forward to watching Picard. Obviously, we're still catching up on things. We've been delayed from the fall, so we're going through the backlog. And also, I suspect Tristan might talk about the other thing that's been delaying us in the past week or so. So is that your pick of the week?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Quickly, there's a chat you can use.
Yes, to the chat.
I wasn't even paying attention.
So those of you watching at home or listening at home.
Oh
yeah, that thing.
Oh, I thought one of you guys was doing that. Oh, fine.
I left it open for you guys.
Okay, well,
I'm wearing a Star Trek shirt.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I am bisexual, but
I mean, it wasn't. No, we'll see. You know what? We'll save it. We'll save it for next week. You can have it. Will, you claimed it. Yeah, okay. We'll save that for next week. Well, I wasn't even thinking of that.
I just figured I had the Coke thing, and that was an obvious thing, and so I'd leave it open for someone. So
we'll make them wait for the obvious. I'm gonna do something slightly less obvious, because this is a movie from a couple of years ago that I finally got around to watching. It was on my PVR. Oh boy. It's from 2017, and I think it was been on my PVR for at least half of that time. And it was nominated for, I think, a couple Oscars for something. I'm not exactly sure what. And that's Molly's Game, starring Jessica Chastain. Now, I've been playing, I have a regular poker game with buddies, maybe like quarterly on average for like the last 20 years or so. So, I am, casually interested in poker. And Rounders was a great movie from the, I believe, late 90s, early 2000s, starring Matt Damon. And, I'm not a huge gambler. Yeah, there's a reason why I limit myself to like $20 per game with any of this stuff. Similarly, when we've gone to Vegas so many times as well for a little bit of pleasure, but mostly work. This was interesting because it wasn't so much it was a bit about the game and a bit about the side effects of people who get too deep into the game, but it was really a heartwarming story about a young female entrepreneur, Brian, striking out on her own, learning the ropes of the industry and hosting private poker games. So now it's a little educational as well. So if any of you either think of, at least in the United States, if you ever think of setting up a private poker game, invitation only, if you want it to remain legal, you cannot take a rake. That means the house cannot get a cut of the bets being made. And if that's the case, perfectly legal. Maybe you can make your money in other ways, in tips, for example, and serving all sorts of fancy drinks and providing other services. But once you take a rake, So this is the story about, it's loosely based on a true story. Jessica Chastain's character, very, very bright young woman who establishes this basic empire. She starts on the West Coast and eventually moves it to New York, bumps up against the Russian mob a little bit, which is always a good time, and hilarity ensues. Let's put it that way. One of the things that I found a little strange, like when I was watching the movie, I'm like the dialogue was just ever so stilted. And I was trying to put my finger on it. The way she spoke was, of course, very confident, very smart. Some of the other, the characters were in that realm too. I'm like, what is that? That's something. It just seems a little affected. And then at the end of the movie, the credits roll. It's like, oh, Aaron Sorkin. So if you've ever watched any other Aaron Sorkin, like Friday Night Lights or Newsroom or the Social Network, rapid fire dialogue, everyone sounds amazingly smart. But it was just like, this was like a slightly different take on Aaron Sorkin. So I wasn't clued in right away, but afterwards it all made perfect sense. It's kind of like a style all into itself when Aaron Sorkin writes screenplays. Anyhow, if you're at all interested in gambling and the consequences thereof, or entrepreneurship and the consequences of bending the rules a little bit, for one reason or another, or be interested in the mob, check out Molly's Game, starring Jessica Chastain, and Idris Elba plays a role in that too. So we're all on the Idris Elba train here, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Always have been.
Always have it. Okay. Just one momentous project this week, as far as I know, and that is the lovely and talented Tasia Custodi has faithfully produced yet another video for us on YouTube. And this one is, what is Google Bard? New Google AI system overview. We talked about Bard briefly a few weeks ago. So one product of Google's extensive AI research over the years, and this is they have a large language model called Lambda, and Google Bard is something that they're promising that might be available to the public sometime soon, but they're being very conservative because Google's got a lot to lose. Microsoft, somewhat less to lose when it comes to the search engine game, of course, because they're very small market share. They're like, that's right, we're going to introduce ChatGPT into Bing search. We're going to call it Bing Chat, but secretly she's known as Sydney, or other alter ego we've discovered named Venom. So that's not ominous at all. And hilarity ensued from that as well. But they're like, anything we can do to scrabble some market share, steal some away from Google. But Google is the one in the driver's seat here and has lots to lose by an AI chatbot going rogue. So they're being a lot more cautious. But in Tasia's video, she kind of recaps some of the announcements that Google had from Paris a couple weeks ago, and give us a little summary of what we can expect from Google Bard. You can find out more from Tasia at her website, and her YouTube channel is youtube.com/Tasia Custodi. And if you want to learn more about us here at Momentous, you can visit us at momentous.tv/links. Next week, I hope to maintain better eye contact with you all. But it was great to have you back. Will, as always, we hope your week is truly momentous.